minutes. So want to welcome everyone. As we said, this is our last town hall of the year. I hope you can stay on for much of the 90 minutes because really we have a favor to ask of you towards the end as we go into 2022 planning. So I will touch on that. So hopefully again, everyone's schedule allows, but we have a lot of wonderful content tonight, which I'll go over. But as we always are blessed to have with us, His Eminence has joined us again. And if he would give us his blessings and a welcoming and opening words.
Thank you, Stephen, and thanks everyone. Although it is a small group, it's very mighty and very inspirational, little small group. For a point of transparency, I will stay with you as long as I can, because there is another responsibility that I have to attend to towards the end of the 90 minutes. So, but for the time being, let us pray. Eternal God, Father and life-giving Spirit, we bow our heads in gratitude for this opportunity to come together and learn more about how we can serve you through our good works as laborers in your holy vineyard. Your steady hand has guided us this year through ongoing challenges, but your light has illumined our path and brought us closer to you. As we prepare to celebrate your incarnation, let us be reminded of your humility and the gifts you brought us through your miraculous birth, faith, hope, and love. May this Christmas season renew our commitment to serve you and bring glory to your most holy name, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, now and forever and to the ages of ages. Amen. A very brief, thank you, sir. Very brief greeting to all of you. As it was mentioned by Steve, I think already, this is our last encounter in the year 2021. And I want to express my gratefulness to our stewardship team, ministry team under the leadership of Steve Papas, along with Bill Marianis and Kristen Bruskas, who have been planning these sessions and for providing these very important resources to our clergy and faithful, especially in light of the challenges our parishes have faced during the pandemic and still facing. It was another gathering of sort of people a little bit earlier today about the issue of how do we sanctify Sundays? How do we bring back people to our churches? And that it's juxtaposed with what you hear in the news media today about the Omicron virus that is creating a havoc through the world, and especially in Europe, but now in our country as well. So there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of things to do. So this group here coming together today, it shows the faith and the dedication that we have to look always above in God's presence and bring something that we don't have that easily sometimes. So this evening's presentation on implementing donor platforms and technologies, quote unquote, is quite relevant because the use of technology has multiplied exponentially since this COVID virus and the COVID situation appeared in our world. Even as we gather this evening on Zoom, this is yet another example of how technology is being utilized to make progress and keep us connected. With regard to fundraising and donations, our metropolis also utilizes various tools for our faith forward stewardship program, including a text to give option or a QR code and a secure online portal for our donors to offer support for the ministries of our metropolis. We are using all the means that we have for today. I know that our parishes also use similar mechanisms so that we can be on the front edge of progress and to make it easier for our constituents to support our parishes and keep up to date on the latest activities. Tonight, we're joined by two key people from our archdiocese, Father Jim Kordaris and Mr. Stacy Stathoulis, both of whom are staying up late to offer this presentation to you, and we're grateful for that. Both of them bring years of experience and practical application of these efforts through their work for the church, and I know that you will gain important knowledge that you will be benefited by you and your communities. We are at the close of the year 2021. This program, however, will continue. We want to hear from you with suggestions for the future topics. That's why Brother William said at the end of this session today, please remain as much as you can with it so that we can receive the blessings of your own experience through these gatherings. And we want to hear you. We look forward to sharing with you our expanded town hall series in 2022 and hope that you will continue to join us. Please know that you have my prayers and my love in Christ to you and to all of your families. And may you have a blessed feast of the Nativity and a new year filled with joy and health. Thank you and God bless you and Merry Christmas to everyone.
Thank you, Your Eminence. Well, I know, as we said, we've got a mighty crew, and it is good to see so many of you here this evening. As always, we're recording, so if there's others that were unable to make it that you're aware of, please share this evening with them, with your fellow lay leaders, so that they can also benefit from the evening and the information we're about to present and discuss as a group. And we do have a lot of content that we will try to pace through. As always, please interrupt either via the chat or take yourself off of mute. Again, we want to present information, but we also, more importantly, want a good dialogue and interchange. So tonight, a little bit different from past town halls, we're actually going to try to cover two topics and even another bonus third topic. So we'll be talking about year-end giving campaigns, given here we are with, I don't know, about 10 days, 11 days left in the year, and things that we could be and should be doing here at our parishes. And then also the original topic of implementing donation platforms and technologies. And what we'll have is Father Kordaris, Father Jim will start us off, and Bill will also talk about the year-end giving campaigns and the time of the season that we're in. And then Stacy will talk about donation platforms and what we're seeing across the Archdiocese. I've had the opportunity to take a look at what's happening in our metropolis, and I'm glad to report on some of the progress there. And then that third part, for everyone that can stay, through our 90 minutes today, definitely want to get your opinions on 2022, what worked well in 2021, and how do we, as we are now in the planning phases of 2022 town halls, want to hear from all of you.
Steve, may I,
yes,
before we start,
yes, Your Eminence.
For a historical purpose, and Father Kordaris reminded me that, and I want to make sure that all of us are mindful that these sessions here are a creation of the Department of Archdiocese, especially Mr. Stacy Stathoulis and Steve Pappas were the originators of these meetings, and we want to give the credit where it's due, and also to thank Father Kordaris and Bill Marianis for making sure that we have those 5-part presentations that we have had this past year. I'm going to close my mouth. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Eminence. Yeah, you'll see we really have accomplished a lot in 2021, and that only raises the bar, us wanting to even accomplish more in 2022. So again, looking forward to everyone's perspectives and thoughts. So let us get into the topic. The first topic tonight is year-end giving campaigns, and Father Corderas, I think you're going to kick us off this evening.
Yeah, we originally said we would talk a bit about welcoming at Christmas. I just don't want us to let that opportunity go by. So let's just remember we're going to see people that maybe don't come as often as we would like. And it's not a time to scold, but a time to welcome and a time to show them that it's time to start coming back on a more regular basis. That means not dragging things out, making them long. People say, I don't go to church because it's all in Greek or it's too long, or they always ask for too much money. They pass so many trays. So why do we make our services start on time, end on time, use some English as much as possible so people can understand, and don't pass 5 trays. let them walk away thinking, oh, it's different. Maybe I'll come back, and stay positive, because you should come back, and we miss you. Those things are helpful, are not always helpful. They kind of turn people off to the church. So we have a one-time opportunity, or 2-time. The Christmas and Easters are coming. So just to keep that in mind as the year end comes. We can go to the next slide, I think. We should use every avenue that we have, including Facebook. This is a slide that we put up on the Stewardship Facebook page, which you're welcome to use or adapt to your parish. But have people think about a gift of appreciated assets, because this is the time between Christmas and Easter when people do sit down with their financial professionals and they rebalance their portfolios. And since we've had a great year for equities, they're up anywhere from 12 to 20%. They may be rebalancing, and those sales of equities will create a taxable event unless they choose to give those appreciated assets to a charitable organization, which we hope would be the church. So be aware of that. It is not a complicated process. In fact, Stacy, your church is pretty well, the cathedral is pretty well set up and doing that on a regular basis. Do you want to mention that?
Yeah, it's not used abundantly, but the few parishioners, I'm going to say, a handful, half dozen or 10 who do use it, have talked about, ease of use. As a matter of fact, I was speaking to a fellow parish council member the other day, and he's in his early 30s, 31, 32, something like that. Darn him. And he made a year-end donation through the sale of stock and said, the process is easy, and looks forward to being able to utilize it again. And he's one of, like I said, a number of people that have taken advantage of it. And once you set it up, it's quite easy to utilize.
It's a real win-win, isn't it, for everybody? They get a tax break, they give a gift to the church, and the church gets usually a larger gift than they might have gotten otherwise. On the flip side of it, the parish has to have a policy. Once you receive equities, they do vary in value from day to day. So unless you want to get in the business of managing a portfolio, it's best to have a policy of liquidating within a short period of time, because if they do happen to have a setback, you're going to have to answer for why that donation is no longer worth what it was before. So most often, I was on the flip side of this in a previous life before coming to the priesthood. I did work for Morgan Stanley, and we have a lot of this kind of thing at the end of the year. It's an easy thing to do. The firm usually gives you all the values and all the things you need for handling the tax aspect of it and the donation aspect of it. So it's a pretty easy process, but you have some things that you need to deal with, have a policy on receiving gifts. So that's just something to keep in mind, and it's very easy, as Stacy said, and the more we can educate our parishioners and tell them that we can be that charitable organization that they can take advantage of making that gift. So next slide, please. This just illustrates that fact. The gift of securities, the charity, which is the church, would receive a gift with no get tax consequences for the donor, and they would achieve the rebalancing of their portfolio without having to take a taxable gain. We can move on to the next one. I'm trying to keep moving here because I know there's a lot we have to cover. So if we could look at one last opportunity for receiving charitable gifts. People over 70 and a half are required to take a certain amount out of their IRAs or retirement plans every year. And that withdrawal can go directly to a charitable organization and not be a taxable event. Of course, we tell them to talk to their tax advisor to be sure, but now those distributions can be burdensome when they don't really want the money, but they're required to take out a percentage. And if your retirement plan, if you've worked for, I knew people that worked for Sears for their whole lifetime and retired with over $1 million in their portfolio, having to take out a percentage of that is a fairly large taxable event. And so allowing them an opportunity like this, a solution to that taxable problem, and allowing them to make their gift to the church, it just keep this information in front of them and be prepared to share it with them. So year end is coming. Bill's got some other ideas he wants to share. I saw an email from the cathedral here in New York, and I'm really proud of Father Nicholas Carlutzis, who's been there for a few years now, and they are really putting their foot forward with stewardship in a big way. And what they're doing is what we want. It's providing a click here option for giving, because here we've got a week to go or 10 days to go. We don't have time to do a lot of writing of checks and doing mailing, but a click here opportunity to give in as many possible ways to give, as Stacy will point out later in the presentation: text, website, QR code, all the possibility of ways there are to give, and also allowing for call-in option for those that for the low-tech options. We need to give them everything. But when we make those communications, we use messaging with photos of events and people participating in ministry, talking about what we accomplished in the last year, and then casting the vision for where we want to go in the future, for showing that we've been good stewards of the gifts of the parishioners, so that they know that we've accomplished something even in the difficult year that just passed. And here's our vision for the ministries that we want to implement and improve in the future. That way they understand that they're giving to something that is growing and vibrant and producing good ministry. So those are the ideas I'd like to have you keep in mind, and it's not too late to get those communications out to your people. Bill, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Father. Are there any questions that anyone has regarding what Father had touched on? And yes, thank you, John. It is 72 and a half now. The constant changes of tax law, and so, and undoubtedly the increase in taxes that that are heading our way. So the things that Father Jim said will have even a more amplified impact for everyone. Are there any questions for Father Jim? All right, Bill.
All right, let's hit the next slide. One of my favorite lines from the movie Top Gun was when they said the clock is ticking, and as of now, we are keeping score. So for those of you keeping score and playing at home, you have 10 giving days left in this year. And let's not lose sight of these 10 giving days and the opportunity they present. Next slide, please. It was Henry Ford that said, if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you always got. And this is an opportunity to challenge each of you to come away with, take one of the ideas that you hear tonight, and immediately tomorrow call your parish priest, or if you're the priest, call the president of the parish council and do something about at least one of the ideas we're talking about, so that we can change the results. Now, if we go to the next slide, we'll see there's a lot of data there, but let me just kind of quickly summarize something that you may or may not realize. Generally speaking, in the nonprofit world, almost a third of annual giving occurs in the month of December. This is the month of giving, and 12% of giving happens in the last 3 days of the year. This is, as Father Jim was talking about, when people are starting to get activity going. So I want you to think about these last 10 days differently than you would have normally thought about it, where you're already starting to think about what the moussaka is going to taste like, or making a couple another dozen of tiropitas. This is a huge opportunity to generate results for the parish. The third bullet point on there is a different, looking at what Father Jim said with a different perspective. He's absolutely right that sometimes when people are rebalancing their portfolios and they got to get rid of equities so that they have a lower percentage of equities, they can give the stock. I'm going to get you to look at it from a different perspective. Anybody who bought a mutual fund or stock a while ago has an embedded capital gain in that stock or in that mutual fund. When it's sold, they're going to get hit with capital gains tax on that. And as Steve mentioned, capital gains tax is going to go up. So here's the other opportunity you talk to your parishioners about. They can give stock, and it could be a mutual fund, shares in a mutual fund, to the church. which has a much higher value than what they paid for it, meaning there's a huge capital gains tax problem facing them. They get a full deduction for the fair market value. The church immediately gets those securities at that fair market value. As Father Jim says, they sell it right away. They now have the cash. The donor gets a deduction for the full fair market value of the stock, not what they paid for it. And here's the best news of all for those of you who, like me, are libertarians. The only one that loses in this is the IRS, because they don't get the taxes that the person would have had to pay if they had sold the shares or mutual funds themselves. So it's win, 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 win. Another way to look at that. If you look at the way the best-in-class nonprofits do it, and by the way, just so you know, and to the point that Father Jim and Stacy were mentioning, all of my donations are done using that vehicle. So the parishes that I'm a steward of, even the National Hellenic Society does, the Scholarship Foundation that we contributed, I got them to set up a securities account at each one of those charities in both parishes, including our little bitty parish that, you know, Father Barnabas is the priest of. And they've got a securities account. I call my broker, make one telephone call, tell them to move X dollars of mutual funds over. It's done. It's over. Everybody wins. That's how easy it is. As we start to look at the momentum here, literally 60% of the nonprofits will make anywhere between 1 and 3 donor touches for the year-end campaign. And I like to challenge parishes to ask you, how many touches did your parish make on your parishioners for the year-end campaign? And usually the answer is 1, if that. And then the other point at the bottom there is that about a little bit more than a quarter of the nonprofits raise anywhere between 25% and 50% of their annual funds from their year-end ask. If you take nothing away from today's first part, what I want you to take away from it is you got to stop thinking about taking the last 2 weeks of the year and relaxing to Christmas, and double down on your effort to take that very, very last year, that last month, that last week, and redouble your efforts. And as I pointed at the end, every winning relay team saves their best runner and their quickest lap for a strong finish. That's the way you need to think about your stewardship and your donation giving in the month of December. Next slide, please. One of the other ways, another data point that you'll see there is, and I'm going to summarize this real quickly, and Stacy's going to give you some additional data that's on one of the giving platforms. But basically, about now across the United States, 49% of church giving is made with some form of a card: credit, debit, phone, card, whatever the case may be. So we're already at 50%, except when you look in the Orthodox Church, it is a much lower percentage. And you're going to see the reason why it's important that we start getting our percentages up. But if they looked at the data, and again, we provide the source at the bottom so you can look at this yourself, almost across the board, even us old timers have gotten much more comfortable using monthly church giving as a vehicle for giving, right? So this is creating that discipline of regular giving to your church using a card, using a kiosk, using some other form. Next slide, please. This next one is a little bit of one piece of information that I want you to take away from as you plan your year-end giving. They've done a lot of research on this that is now old, but it used to be new. And look at the part in blue. People are more responsive to charitable pleas that feature a single identifiable beneficiary than they are with statistical information about scales and this and that, right? So talking about what the church needs, ineffective. Talking about meeting a budget, ineffective. Talking about a lot of other things that we generally use in our year-end campaigns, very ineffective. But what the research has shown is that if you personalize the story, even down to naming a name of somebody who's been benefited by the huge generosity that's been given to the church, the results are better. They even did an experiment where they were giving money to polar bears in a Save the Polar Bear thing. And when they asked for people to give money to just general Save the Polar Bears, they got X dollar amount. But when they talked about Bobo the polar bear, by the way, a made-up name, and they talked about the life that Bobo the polar bear was going through, donations went up. So the more you can personalize your request and the less institutional you make it, the better the results are going to be. Next slide, please. Now, this is one more, and I know your heads are going to explode at tax giving, right? This is one more unique element here that is a unique opportunity as a result of a temporary tax law. If I was still practicing law, like Father Jim, when he was still practicing securities, we'd have to tell you, please check with your tax advisor. And that's always a good idea. But there's a temporary law provision that even allows people to take a standard deduction, that take a standard deduction, to claim a limited deduction on their taxes for cash contributions made to qualified charitable organizations. So there's a unique opportunity this year, maybe it'll be repeated next year, but you never take these for granted, where even people that are taking the standard deduction and not itemizing have a certain dollar amount that they can actually get a tax deduction for a charitable contribution. So I don't want you to lose sight of that. Okay, next slide, please.
And
One of
Bill,
the things.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Bill, to interrupt you. That's only for this year that we know of, right?
That
For
we know
tax year
of.
2021.
That we know of. Yeah, it's
Yep.
for it's the 2021 tax year. Now, again, who knows what it's going to be like, Steve? As you know, there's
Yep.
a lot of conversation about changing the tax laws. But even for people taking a standard deduction and not itemizing, there's an opportunity for them to get an additional deduction. Okay. Now, you're going to hear more about this in the next segment that Stacy's going to talk about, but I just wanted to give you 2 data points that we shared with the bishops at the Assembly of Bishops meeting. We are now at the point where over half of all website views are from mobile devices. So if you don't think this smartphone has replaced your computer and every other iPad and everything else, you're not really paying attention. So think about how this device is a gateway into your church and what your church is doing. And we now know the second data point, that the average US adult spends more time on apps on their phone than watching TV. Now, maybe it's just a navigation app like, Waze or something like that, but apps have transformed the way we interact with information even more so than TV. So as you start to think about the technology platforms you're going to be devoting, please, please, please understand that people have moved on and we need to move with them. Next slide, please. Wayne Gretzky, the famous hockey player, or probably the most famous hockey player, once famously said that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And that's like everybody who was a gunner in basketball or baseball or football always used that excuse as to why they kept jacking up the 3-point shots or whatever the case may be. But I want you to think about this in the context of church world, and that is there is a unique opportunity to ask people to help the church, to help individuals in the church, to help beneficiaries of the church, to help the ministries of the church. And if you don't ask them, you're missing that opportunity. And that's really a huge thing that is proven to make a big difference. All right, my last and final slide. 2 points. Number 1, you can never say thank you enough. So in this moment in time, just like Father Jim said, when you welcome people in the church, thank them. When you talk to everybody, all your stewards, don't just send them the form letter that says you've given over X dollars, whatever the case may be. This is a unique opportunity to thank every one of your individual stewards, every person, without regard to what they give. Although I do point out to you that it's not a bad idea to go a little bit further out of your way to thank the especially largest donors. I just happen to be talking to someone who I know is the largest donor at a particular parish. And just in passing, he said, nobody from the parish has ever contacted me in the last year to even say thank you. And I thought, well, there you go. So I want to encourage you at the same time that we encourage you to welcome people, at the same time as we encourage you to invite people to use the generosity that God gave them for the benefit of the church and the ministries and the people that you're going to help, but also take this as an opportunity to thank them for whatever they've done, whatever opportunities they've served on, whatever ministries they've served on, even if they've just showed up in church on Sunday once or twice, thank them. And it is at this point that I guess I don't have any authority, but on behalf of His Eminence and Steve Pappas and Kristen and myself and Father Jim and Stacy and everybody else, we want to thank you because you are the ones that stuck with us all the way to the end and have gotten some of the greatest jewels that we have to give. This is also by way of inviting you to participate in next year, but Brother Pappas will take care of that. So all I got to say is thank you very much for being so devoted to your church and really Christ's church that you would take valuable time at the end of the year to focus on how you can do even more this year and the years to come. God bless you.
And thank you, Bill. Thank you for joining us this whole year. In 2020, you really kicked things off with a 5-part series. So it's we can't thank you enough for what you've done and joined us here within the metropolis of San Francisco. We're going to pivot to a new topic, but before we do that, wanted to open it up again if there's any questions. I don't think there was anything in the chat, but does anyone have any questions or comments or experiences to share from your own parish regarding here year-end activities?
Yeah, hi. Sorry I joined late, guys. This is Dean from Annunciation in San Francisco. Hi, Stacy. Hi, Bill. A couple questions, and if you will you share the materials first of all?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Yeah, I wanted to see on the tax benefits. I see a couple of slides here with some links. Has anyone put together like a little, QA document on those? Something that we could attach to sending something we send out? Because basically, if you're saying it's a tax benefit, that means people have to give in 2021, but they can obviously file their taxes up through April of next year, right? But they have to give
September, really. But yeah, right.
Or September for the extension. Yeah. Okay, but the giving has to happen in 2021 in order to qualify.
Yeah, and so all the things that we talked about are for gifts that actually occur in calendar year 2021, which of course would allow you to take the benefit of it in 2021. But okay. but to just not to be to make a quick exclamation point. Generally, most people feel comfortable adopting the mailbox rule, and under the mailbox rule, if the check that you wrote is in the mailbox and postmarked by December 31, even if the church doesn't receive it until the end of until the next year and cash it the next year, people are pretty comfortable taking the tax deduction. So literally you have until midnight on 12/31 to kind of get it going. The other thing I would encourage you to do that, however, is remembering that the markets are going to be closing at various points and times, but authorizing your broker to make the transaction is not enough. They actually have to execute the transaction for you to get the tax deduction or the tax benefit. But all of the benefits are huge benefits to you now, and particularly as capital gains taxes will go up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Dean, you may have some more questions, but just to add on really the discussion of the equities, here in the West Coast, we've got a fair number of tech workers, and compensation today, whether it's Seattle or Portland or Oregon, California, even Arizona. So even people's compensation structures are sometimes more heavily tilted towards equities. Again, more the tech workers here. It's a lot easier. And as Bill said, if they happen to be a part of an IPO, happen to be part of a company that's grown very rapidly, the appreciation on those stocks are very significant. And it's much easier to just pass along the full dollar value to the church and not have to suffer and give the IRS as much as people will be giving. So
Father
Dean
Theodore has his hand up.
Yeah, Father.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I really liked what Bill said about making things personal and how important it is to connect with our people as persons rather than looking at the bottom line, the budget, and whatever we need in terms of balancing whatever we have to balance. My experience, and I've gotten into this a lot more as I've gotten more involved over the years and my age of many years of the priesthood. My experience has been, and I think it's really coming together in my mind. We have a parish in which we have a lot of snowbird sacraments. People come for destination weddings or even destination baptisms. And they always coming across, coupling with what Bill is saying about thank you. After we do a baptism or a wedding, our people always want to say thank you to the priest in some way. What do we owe you, Father? What is it that we can give to you, Father? We're so glad that we could do this sacrament. And I've come to the conclusion that the best way, and I tell them, the best way they can be thankful for the sacrament that they've received, if it's a baptism, bring your children to Sunday school. Make sure your children are part of the life of the church through Sunday school and the youth programs. Raise them in the faith. If it's a wedding and you're thankful, then raise your children and be a model of a good marriage and raise your children in the faith and practice the faith and be an example. And the response that I get is that, yeah, sure, we'd love to do that. Now, because we're in a snowbird parish, I don't always see the results of my words to them. I do see some results in my own parish once in a while. But I think it's still a common message that our priests can make. Be thankful by not so much money, but by your presence and by your prayers. I think when we communicate that, in the long run, they won't write you a big check maybe right away, but when they come to church and light a candle every Sunday, and when their children learn to light a candle every Sunday by them coming to church, it all adds up. And I'd like to see stewardship go in that direction as well.
Amen.
Thank you, Father. Yeah, I was thinking, Bill, of the Gretzky corollary, right? You sort of miss 100% of those that don't show up to church anymore too. So, the importance of, again, as we all know, all of us as, lay leaders and priests, of trying to get people back to our churches. Dean, I think you may have had a couple. Did you have another question? I think we may have cut you off there.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to ask, and I'm sorry that if you covered it earlier in the call, was the software part. Is that where you're heading next in the agenda, or did you cover that earlier?
No, it's coming up, Dean.
Okay, perfect. I'm glad I didn't miss that, because we're at a decision point on this point.
Great. Then we'll move forward. And again, if there's questions, please feel free to use the chat. So part number 2, or topic number 2, implementing donation platforms and technologies. Stacy, do you want to kick things off?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And Dean, to your question, a lot of what I'm going to speak to comes from, not only my experience in Columbus, but what I've seen with parishes around the Archdiocese. But where I'm going to start is with Vanco, and I don't want anybody on the call to think that I'm doing a infomercial for Vanco by any means. Again, they happen to be who we use because they do integrate well with parish data system software from the Archdiocese. And I said, well, I didn't say perfectly. I didn't say, without error, but it is a good piece of software. And currently the Archdiocese and our metropolis are both underwriting the cost of implementing it. And I don't know the case with the metropolis of San Francisco, but there is that opportunity out there. Where I'm going to go with Vanco, and you can all read this, and I know you'll get these slides to reread yourselves afterwards. Every year they do a survey of the trends in e-giving. And in 2018, one of the first parishes I came across was in Falls Church, Virginia. They had engaged with Vanco and began using a donation kiosk, which is really, an iPad with a receipt printer attached to it. But 3 years ago, as you might expect, their young parishioners were the first adopters of the new technology. But a guy named Jim Stoker, who was their president at the time, he said, once I saw, 50 plus crowd starting to use it, I knew this was going to catch on in our parish. And one more anecdotal story from Jim was, he said on December 31st, he and his treasurer were looking at the late year giving and donations. And between 11 p.m. and 11:59 p.m. on New Year's Eve, they took in something like a dozen donations from people who wanted to get it in under the wire, and were able to do so because they had their website enabled. They had a web page that looks exactly like the kiosk that people encounter, that parishioners encounter when they go into the parish on a given day. And he was like, Stace, I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe that, at 11:45 on New Year's Eve, somebody was thinking about making their donation, and the fact that we had the technology available to them to do made it possible. So that was Falls Church, and you can find a little case study that we did on them on the Go Arch website. If you go to Stewardship Resources, it's available under there, and it also talks about some different age groups, but we'll get to them in a little bit. You can see the general findings, and I think the number one thing to call out here is the fact that electronic giving has now surpassed traditional giving. For all of those people that love writing a check and putting it in that envelope and handing it in at the candle stand or in the tray, they're now a slight minority, and that electronic giving, and that's being able to do it through a website, do it in person at church at the kiosk. We'll talk a little bit about text to giving, which is also a great thing. That is on the steady rise and has been since 2015, really. Processing fees are no longer a barrier. People will gladly compensate for the 2%, 2+% that is charged by the processing companies for people who are using credit cards, debit cards, whatever. Bill referenced this in his presentation about smartphone apps, and giving through those apps and giving by text are all on the rise. Absolutely. Go ahead, Stephen, advance the slide, please. Here again, a little bit of an infographic that you can see. And I think the other thing is to keep this in mind in the context of the pandemic. A lot of parishes were probably pushed into electronic giving further than they had been, right? Some parishes just had a PayPal capability on their site and not much more. But the pandemic and the absence of us physically in church for that time in 2020 pushed to the forefront every form of electronic giving. And that's really the key point here. All of the above is the answer to which form of e-giving should a parish use. I mentioned, having a website that's equipped to take donations, using text to give, electronic funds transfers. You can set those up. We can set those up in our parish through our bookkeeper. And in December every year, he sends out an email to the last time I heard, it was around 180 or 190 people who had taken advantage of it. And he does a great job when the way he words his email. He says, "This is your donation for 2021. Would you like to change it going into 2022? It doesn't say increase or decrease. It says, would you like to change it for 2022? I answer an email and I'm all set for all of 2022. So the all of the above solution is really what's best here. As many solutions as you can offer enable giving that much more. Steve, go ahead. This was from their most recent survey of 1,000 Christian denominations. 78% offer e-giving, 42%, I thought this was interesting, have started since the onset of the pandemic. And you can see the difference there over 3 years' time between 2017 and 2020. Reference the processing fees. I think this is a big deal, that bullet that starts 51% of e-givers give 10% or more of their salary. That is, I think, bigger than we can imagine. And I didn't mean to just kind of bury it there. It's in another slide a little bit further down. But the importance of that can't be stressed enough.
That's an amazing number. This is obviously a cross-denominational survey, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yes, it is.
I can't imagine we have anybody who's at that level.
I think Father Jim said it early on as we were getting just getting into the meeting. It's that if, people mentally think, if I'm going to, go ahead and make a donation that incurs a processing fee, giving $1 doesn't make sense. And so you're changing people's mindset out of the $1 candle mindset, and they're saying, you know what, I'm going into church. I'm going to do more than just pull $1 out of my pocket and drop it at the candle stand. It's helping. The technology helps in changing the mindset, I think. But I also think that that's borne out in what we're seeing here. I also find it interesting that a higher percentage of e-givers attend church more frequently. I don't know why that's caught my attention, but it certainly has. Go ahead, Steve. Here again, we're talking about the generosity of electronic givers. I think the payoff to this is the final sentence where it says e-giving tools allow members to contribute whether they're attending in person, virtually, or not at all. And setting up recurring donations certainly is, if you think about it tactily, right? If there are any treasurers or former treasurers on this call, June, July, and August are always the leanest months for cash flow, right? People are on vacation, out of town, perhaps taking vacation from their church attendance. And so if they're only giving when they're in person, the cash flow drops way off the screen in those summertime months. Having a recurring donation helps level that out over the 12 months of the calendar year. Steve, go ahead. There's a lot of information here, but different age groups prefer different methods of giving, okay? Some are motivated by using a credit card because they're gonna accrue the airline miles. And, in a certain age group, usually the 55 and over, are used to paying off their credit cards in an entire month, but they're deriving a benefit. And each group, tends to have a little bit of different tendencies. Some prefer using a computer or tablet. Some, like I would say, the 25 to 34 demographic prefer the smartphone app. But again, that is on the increase, as was noted earlier on. All this will be in here in the slides for you all to read afterwards. I don't want to take all the time to read. Go ahead, Steve, advance 2, please. There it is. There's the graphic. And what I've heard from clergy who, have preached tithing in their parishes is that in their, let me go back to start again. Father Bill Bartz, who Navy chaplain, was in a parish in Indianapolis, Indiana, and he set his parish on a path of tithing and said, we're going to try to build this gradually. If you're giving 2% now, give 3% next year, and build toward. But kind of privately and on the slide, to me, he was like, if our parishioners all gave 2 or 3% of their income as stewardship, all of our parishes would be fine. Tithing is a biblical concept. It's one that we should talk about more, and it should be aspirational for all of us. But I think if we're going to keep enabling electronic givers, we're going to see an increased amount of generosity because of that. Steve?
Okay. All right,
Thank
Stacey.
you. I appreciate this slide. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I'll take a quick handoff. Then we will open up for questions on this particular topic. So as I did back in June of 2020, as we were just fresh into the pandemic, I had this past weekend the chance to kind of visit everybody's websites in the metropolis and see, what are all of our parishes doing. And I'm happy to report some of the stats. I didn't put the kind of the trend information here, but PayPal, which was for many years the Archdiocese kind of recommended, kind of online payment service, certainly an easy one to implement. PayPal lost about 3 parishes in our metropolis, and Vanco picked up 4 of them. So Vanco, with all of its kind of multi-device, avenues, is becoming a bit more popular within the metropolis, kind of stealing a little bit of market share from PayPal. The other thing I was really pleased to see is that back in June of 2020, we had 7 parishes that didn't have any online payment, any way of capturing online donations. We're down to 3. And I think a couple of those are mission parishes, so quite understandable. So essentially, just about every parish within the metropolis has some form. Now, mind you, I only went to websites, so this is the website view of paying online on a website. As Stacy touched on, there's many things that can happen, within a narthex or within mobile devices or texting. But the parishes here on the West Coast have done well by implementing, various solutions. If you want, and I think, Dean was asking about it, they may be at a sort of juncture for deciding, Dean, if there's particular ones and you want to talk to particular parishes, we can always, look to get you connected with some of the parishes. You'll also notice there's 9 parishes that are using just a variety of, one-off. So those other 9 parishes are just using, there's 1 parish using each of these particular solutions. So I know everyone at least has kind of jumped into the technology pool, and we're all kind of learning as we're going and doing it. As you've heard tonight, the opportunities are significant. And an example that I came across, this is actually out in Houston. None of our parishes are using, well, at least not Square Online, but maybe parishes are using Square within. I know many of us have used it for festivals and golf tournaments and Philoptochos events. But here at this parish, they have a Square device there. Simply come in and tap or insert or swipe your card. They have the opportunity, whether it's for candles, whether it's your weekly gift to the church. It has special collections. If it's for IOCC, if it's for Philoptochos. I didn't get a picture of the menu, but there was a menu of multiple areas where you could give various ministries within the parish itself. So just examples of how we're starting to bring more and more technology. I think what's important, having kids in their 20s now, myself, as we've said in previous town halls, the younger generation is not carrying cash. They're not sure what cash is. And, we've anecdotally, we have heard that, it's some young folks will make the decision there on Sunday morning and wake up and realize there's no cash around, whether it's $1 or $5 or $10, and that could curtail them from going to church that Sunday. The feeling of embarrassment if the tray gets passed, I think that's something we all need to also, we're talking earlier as we were prepping for this, we need to even educate our parish council members, those greeters, the folks in the narthex and the pagadi, that the entrance to the church doesn't require green pieces of paper, and being able to accept gifts or accept donations through these electronic means, whether you do it remotely, whether you do it privately, whether you swipe a card or not. We should all respect that and understand it. And again, not only is it teaching our parishioners, but it's also, again, teaching our parish council members and our greeters and others. So I'd love to hear, first of all, any questions, but I'd love to hear experiences and examples from our own parishes. What are people using in their parish? What's worked well, maybe what hasn't worked so well, so we can also learn from that. So Any questions, or can we have any good case studies or stories of what people are doing in their respective parishes? You
Castro
come off
Valley
of mute. Hey, Gary.
Castro Valley uses PDS, the database, which links to Venco. We're very happy with the system. We've been using it for several years now. And we have a kiosk based on Father Jim's recommendation. We've probably had that for a couple of years. And to your point, everything you said, it applies to the success of what we're doing. So we'd
Gary,
be happy. Yeah.
Gary, you do know that 10% of whatever you make on your Vanco kiosk due to Father Jim goes back to the Archdiocese, right? That's
Yes,
as a
definitely.
And it gives us this insight right into your books. We can check your books
there you
top
go.
to bottom.
Shh, don't tell them that.
Let's not get on that topic.
Yeah.
Can we get this graphic out so we can have everybody?
The faces.
So with the kiosk, we have the tablet right by
Oh,
the
yeah.
candle on the candle stand, and it works very well. And it applies to what
Good.
you said, Steve. People don't have money really anymore, so they'll come in, they'll swipe their card, and it goes to candles, it can go to stewardship. We have many categories people can choose from.
And Gary, do you find the statistic is that for the fee, most people will reimburse for the fee as well?
Yes.
There's an option on Vanco to give the money for
Right.
the fee, and they I think in the 70% will do that.
Yeah, those who give online on stewardship through our website or through the kiosk will reimburse that fee.
I think Vicky's got a question.
Vicky, yep, Vicky's got her hand up.
Yes, we started with PDS from the Archdiocese, and we actually converted to Realm. So we're probably the one parish that you have on there that uses Realm, which also uses Vanco. And we started out in March of 2019 with the old PDS. We had about 11% of our stewardship give was through the Vanco. And now this year, out of all giving, not just stewardship, we're at about 39% that uses the platform. And that's only in 2.5 years, coming up on the 3rd year. So it has been.
How did you get it adopted so quickly? What did you do to share your success?
It actually came in as a change to the software. They when the PDS actually showed, hey, we have this new giving thing, why don't you try it? And so we had converted to PDS, I think in 2015, whenever it came out, and that was the catalyst for trying it, honestly.
No, but how did you get so many of your parishioners to embrace it? What technique did you use?
Advertising. We in the bulletin, like I would write a little, like a blurb to say, hey, we've got this new technique, would you like to use it? That was one technique. The other one is that I'm the database manager, so obviously I see who donates the larger amounts, if you will, and contacted them personally to say, hey, we've got this online thing, and most of them were relatively in that age group that you were referring to. So anywhere between 35 to 55, if you will. Makes it a lot easier. I just had a little blurb, and actually I kind of personalized it, said, hey, if you do this, it kind of makes life easy for me because it automatically gets put into the system. And that was the biggest thing as far as a database person is that you're no longer typing individual things. When things come in automatically, it transfers into your database. And for those of you that have 100 or more or larger, even larger parishes, that's the best. From a bookkeeper standpoint. And so I would say bulletin and phone calls was really it. Now, the second year obviously was 2020. And so that in and of itself was a catalyst for online giving. And then we had, I don't know if you recall, we had fires in 2020, and we had actually a couple of families that lost, one lost their whole house, and one lost peripheral things. And in the emails that the priest would send out, he was able to say, hey, here's an easy way to help these families in need. And you just need to go online and press this button. And so, and getting the website to be friendly was also a good technique.
What parish are you, Vicky, from?
I'm sorry, Holy Trinity in Spokane. Your
Okay,
Eminence.
great.
So Vicky, to kind of summarize, number one is you embraced the technology and experimented with it.
Mhm.
You communicated it and its ease to the parishioners, but critically importantly, you made a personal solicitation of individuals, inviting them to use the technology.
Yes.
And I think if everybody will think about those three things, that you'll see an absorption. What was the percentage? You're at 31%? What'd you say?
Well, right now, about 39% out of all of our giving is through the online platform.
39% giving in 2 years.
Yep, coming up on the third year. Yep.
Yeah, and while we don't know what your numbers are, you saw the statistics that we quoted before. What that does in terms of giving, more giving, and overall, that's phenomenal. That's a case study right there. We ought to write the case study of your parish if you would be willing to do that.
I agree.
Most definitely.
These are the numbers that the parish councils need to hear when they're reticent, because change is hard. The person who's been doing the books isn't uncomfortable with any new change, but if they know what the results can be and how it really is easier than they think. But a lot of us, a lot of parishes have people running their offices that have been doing it the same old way for many, many years, and they can't step up. There was one thing we didn't cover that I just want to speak to, especially now with COVID seeming to kick its head up again. St. Mark's in Boca has done a great paradigm of the Light a Candle program, which I was cynical of, to have to be honest with you. I thought it was just another way to raise money, but they've turned it into a real ministry, and they light candles for people from every province in Canada, 40 some states in America, and places around the world have people at St. Mark's light a candle for them. And it's more of a ministry for them than anything else, but they have a staff that lights the candle, takes a picture, and sends the email to the donor. And it's become a real, taken on a life of its own. So you might want to, and Ted Vagelas, who's a techie guy in that parish and very successful at it, did a video. Stacy, isn't that it's on the GoArch site under the COVID resources on how to implement a Light a Candle program. I mean, I know you can do it on your own, but if you want to see a successful program, that's there too. So don't hesitate to do that. It connects people to the church. There are people that are still staying away because they're afraid. And so it really connects them to the church in a way that is very personal.
And it is a good reach, because I've lit a candle there too, and his other alter ego at the Cathedral in Atlanta has done it to where every week we get 2 or 3 notifications of lighting a candle. You can even integrate it to where, and I mean this, I know this sounds opportunistic, but I mean, if you would be thinking about the passing of your loved ones and the commemoration of the saints of the loved ones, it's a beautiful opportunity on every one of those occasions to light a candle. And it's easy. Click, click, click. And one of the things the cathedral does is they make sure that during the service, they pan down to the long tables with all the lit candles and all the votives on there. So again, it's reinforcing that concept.
But I think as Vicky was talking about, and certainly her professional experience, but now bringing it right to the benefit of her parish, is, we always have the elusive find the treasure, right? Find the financial help within our parishes. I think it's important, listening to this conversation, the importance of having the technologists. Unfortunately, there's a good correlation with younger people who are technology savvy, and a great way to engage. And as we've talked about true Christian stewardship throughout the years, how do we engage? And what a great ministry, to have some of the younger folks help us with these technologies. Father Ted?
Yeah, Vicky, I wanted to know, does this Van Gogh, does it hook up with like QuickBooks? Because we use QuickBooks in our accounting process. And do we have to change from QuickBooks to another system? Or is there a particular system that Van Gogh works with that we should know about?
Well, we also use QuickBooks, and I am not an expert on QuickBooks at this time to know if it can link. It certainly can link from the bank. I mean, you can link your bank, which Vanco automatically deposits to your bank. It is the matter of getting whatever that number happens to be, because it could be one person, it could be 5 people in one day, and then splitting that out to the proper QuickBooks income categories. So we were actually working through that. We're going to be working through that now because we've gone to QuickBooks Online. And so it'll be a bookkeeper in a separate location than from me, who does the database part of it. So we're going to be kind of working through some of those issues, but I don't know if there's an easy way that it actually links directly from Realm to QuickBooks. Realm has its own
Financial.
QuickBooks Financial,
Yeah,
right?
that's
So
on
that's one of
spreadsheet.
the things they advertise is that you can link that whole thing. But I think I've listened in on some treasurer meetings that really QuickBooks is kind of like the industry standard. So I don't think we would ever switch to something other than QuickBooks.
Right now it won't integrate with QuickBooks because we've been talking with Vanco on that, and it does not integrate directly into QuickBooks. They do have a program that integrates directly with something called Church 360, which people use also for their data management system for their people.
Mm-hmm.
But John, can they not download it into like a common limited file that you can then incorporate into a Excel spreadsheet or a QuickBooks?
We're working with Vanco on that right now. They're going to be working with us on giving us the downloads because they do create a download that goes into Church 360. We're trying to figure out how to take that Church 360 download and integrate it into QuickBooks at the same time.
Great.
Yeah, I would be happy to send out. So I'm running a little bit of a comparison process to try and help make this decision. And so from what I can see, the platforms cover everything from really member management, member communication, event management, setting up or having an event, who's coming, attendance in the event, tracking, thank you, all that, contributions and giving, things around forms that you can create. And then they have different channels. So some of them, from what I can tell, one of them, CH Meetings, I don't know, you said, I think somebody's using CH Meetings. One of them even has a mobile app that you can custom create, branded that you can download that appears to the parishioner like it's the app of the church, and allows them to go not only see all their giving, but update their profile, update the names of their kids and themselves.
Yes.
So I'm trying to basically build a little like comparison table, and I've reached out to all these vendors and asked them to essentially respond like we're doing an RFP. So I'd be glad when I get all that pulled together.
I would be more than happy to share any of it. We did the same thing. And when you're going from PDS, which is it's a older type of system, we stuck with ACS Tech, who incorporates PDS and a lot of these other different church management systems. And it is a lot to discuss and look at. And so I think I put my phone number and my email in the chat. If anybody has any questions, I'd be more than willing to share.
Wait. That's getting you off too easy now. That's getting you off too easy, okay? So I would like to ask you a favor to give all of us a Christmas gift.
Okay.
Write it down. Write down the process, write down the methodology, write down some of the mistakes you made, and then send it to Steve, and Steve can get it uploaded and stuff like that. And same thing with you, Dean. When you finish what you're doing and sorting it all out, don't make it an N of 1. This is the chance to put it out into the world and cause it to multiply, right? So you guys have great experiences, and we're grateful that you all joined us on this night, but man, oh man, this is the time to share the wealth.
Well, Bill, I think we solidified, one of our 2022 topics, because today,
you got that right.
Because today was really about donation platforms. I think we're hearing, and I know that all parishes, struggle with the church management softwares as well as the interface of the financials. And it evolves quickly, where we had PDS, and a few years ago, and the Archdiocese was putting a big push behind it. Your Eminence, you may remember that. Now they kind of pulled back, and so we should probably get the latest. So yes, we'll have a 2022 town hall on software and technology, sort of everything from church management all the way through financial management.
And you have some presenters from your own metropolis. Isn't that beautiful?
So Vicki and Dean, if you can pass along, I'll put you probably have my email. Oh, I know Vicki does, and Dean does too, but we'll prepare that early next year. It sounds like it's a hot topic.
But start writing it now, because if you wait till early next year, they'll forget about it. So Vicki, I mean, it's about 3 hours earlier on the West Coast, so you can have it ready by tonight now, right? Can I just give you, all kidding aside, I just wanted to plant one seed in your head, just so you can understand the power and the impact of this. The largest gathering of Christian youth in America, regrettably, is not an OCF Orthodox event. It's something called the Passion Conference that happens every year in 3 cities. In 2019, I just happened to go to the one in 2019 to see it with my own eyes. They had a total of 39,000 students attend, and they paid to attend for 3 days in 3 cities. That's not the reason why I brought it up. The reason why I brought it up was they had vetted a global charity. In this case, it was a charity that did Bibles for the deaf. And they asked all the 39,000 young people there to pull out their cell phones, and they gave them an easy way to donate some money to help create this ministry that would do Bibles for the deaf. 39,000 students that had paid to travel to the venue, that had paid to stay at hotels, and had paid to go there. And they asked them to donate money using their cell phones. Anyone want to guess how much money they raised? $448,370. So if you don't think that there is that incredible, amazing capacity that is available to us by creating a compelling message and an easy vehicle of giving, then you don't understand human psychology, right? It's got to be a compelling message with great impact and an easy way to marry that generosity that lives within us.
Bill, I was going to say that's fantastic. Every year at FDF, our metropolis hooks up with the Philoptochos, and they do a tremendous effort to help the poor and feed the hungry. And if you could come to FDF and teach us how to do what you just said, I think we'd really do fantastic.
He's been there more than once, Father Ted.
But
Bill has been there more than once.
His Eminence allows me to come, but he doesn't allow me to do anything over there because he doesn't want me to mess it up. Y'all are doing too good. You guys are doing too good over there, So anyway, but you get the point. You get the point. Don't think about it in the limited way that we have been thinking about this. There really is an amazing heart of generosity within our people. And if we can just create that compelling message and all the things we talked about today, those easy vehicles, that would be great, which is a natural segue, Steve, to your last topic.
It is, Bill. Thank you. I know we've got about 10 minutes left here. And I wanted to make sure we got to it. Let's see. Am I sharing yet? Nope. Let me hit the share button and we should be live. All right. Last topic, 10 minutes. Oops, wrong direction. We've said thank you. We can't say thank you enough, as Bill has taught us. Thank you all, seeing all these familiar faces. Wow, 2021, we endeavored to try this out and move to monthly town halls. And we had just a tremendous amount of participation, information, guest speakers. We really made an effort to both look within our metropolis for those shining stars, but also bring in some new thinking or some outside thinking outside the metropolis, all in the spirit of enriching ourselves and enriching our parishes. So just a tremendous year that we had. That's to get us to start thinking about, not start thinking about, but get into planning for 2022. And with His Eminence's blessing, We tried to stay stewardship focused for much of 2021. For those of you that participated, sometimes we, expanded those lines a little bit. And when we look at 2022, we really are thinking of even widening the aperture, and it's really parish life. And we still expect that about half of our sessions will be stewardship, true Christian stewardship, time, treasure, and talents focused. But we also know there's a lot of other topics that are important to our parishes. So we want to involve some of our other metropolis ministries. I'll continue to coordinate, but we'll invite some of our other ministries. And we want to make sure that this is just a valuable forum, knowing how challenged our parishes are. And we know trying to get people back to church, and I'm sure we're all reading about the drop-off that not only our faith has seen, but all Christian faiths. We keep, running into new hurdles and new obstacles. So we really want to make sure that, again, we can continue these town halls and assist everyone in all of our parishes. So this is feedback time, and I know we only got 5 or 10 minutes, and please, feel free, we could do it real time now, but feel free to drop me an email with your thoughts. But we had some polling. I know, Kristen, how quickly we could get through the polling, but
I'm ready whenever you are, Steve.
First of all, I really want to hear what topics are of greatest interest. What ministries do you want to hear from? And then, if you've got ideas for outside speakers, love to hear it. Stacy, Father Jim, Bill have been great conduits to speakers throughout the archdiocese. But what are there particular topics? And then we've got some logistical questions for the group.
Are you ready for the first poll for the ministries, Steve?
Not quite yet, because the topics we've already picked up. Technology is one, but are there other topics that are particularly timely for you and your parish?
I have a suggestion.
Yes, Gary.
With my business experience, I think it'd be a great first part of the year actually do some type of business review. We've taken all these Monday stewardship town halls. What actually are the results? Our parish is seeing increases in revenue. It's almost like doing Bill's financial analysis. If we could do a survey, I'd love to hear from other parishes. What have you implemented? What hasn't worked? What has worked? But and also look at the metrics. Have we incorporated? Do we actually see increases in our revenue? And if so, why? So I think it'd be great to do an actual type of business review with everything we've learned, what we've implemented. I'm sure Bill has maybe some comment on some of the analysis we could do and actually evaluate, what we've learned from these things and how they actually translate to the financials.
So Gary,
and the lives of the parish also.
Yeah, no, that's great. As far as a survey, we hit everyone hard with the surveys at the beginning of COVID in those early months, and I think that I'll have to talk to my good friend George Seftas and others, and Steve Tibbs, and maybe we'll coordinate an appropriate survey that encapsulates some of this, and then report back. And Gary, you're right. Maybe the sort of state of our parishes 2021, and then you can have a session to report out and also have a discussion around those findings. So I like that thing.
There's a great deal. There's a great deal of experience that has been shared all year around with these town halls here. That I think what Gary says has a great deal of power and usefulness for the metropolis and for the church in general. We need to know the deliverables of these experiences, as they call it in Bill Marianis's language. We know what are the results of all these things. do they result something that is going to be tangible? And I know it is, but we have to measure it, the measurables, so we can be able to replicate them if we can.
Your
So
Eminence,
we-
with your blessing, I think Gary's a great idea, and Steve's. What I would like to suggest to you is, and we could work, Steve, with your team. We actually now have created at the Assembly of Bishops level a 3-person research coordination team with bona fide Orthodox people who have PhDs in trying to gather research and data. And maybe we could do one for your metropolis following Gary's idea of all the various implementation things. And then with your support, Your Eminence, get it out, spend a month or two gathering the data, getting these professionals to analyze it, and then it could be presented at one of the town halls for 2022.
I'll be delighted to be of service, whatever it is. You just put the plan together and let me know.
Okay. I think that's a great idea, Gary.
Excellent. Thanks. Thank you, Gary. Other topics of particular interest? Okay, Kristen, let's throw up those polls. If everyone's got their hands on their keyboards, just some quick, wanted to kind of do some quick polling. Obviously, we have a smaller group, but other ministries, we've had some of these ministries participate with us this year, but are there particular ministries that you'd like to hear from? If you can vote away. Kristen, can people only select one? Can they select multiple?
I believe we just had it as a single choice. Sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. No problem. So pick your top choice. And again, nothing scientific, but it really does help us instead of going, working without the feedback from all of you who are very, very important stakeholders. This will help us. All right, we're about 15 of the 24. Let's get at least a magic 20 of the 24. And there we go. Wonderful. And Kristen, you'll be able to save the results of these polls, I hope, or I can take a screenshot. Let me know.
Yeah, it should come up, but I'll take a screenshot just in case. So give me one second to do it. I'll snap it. And we've got 23 people. So I'm going to end this poll. We good with that?
Yes. Right. So second question we had was, we're also looking at days and times. We've used Mondays very effectively, and I know no date is perfect. We have parish council meetings, we have choir practices. There are many other conflicts we run into. So we're trying to find at least the optimal day. But Kristen, if we go to the second poll.
On the which evening?
Which evening, yes.
Yep, give me 1 second, sorry.
No problem.
Just clicked
and just to get everyone ready, the question after which evening will be time. And I know we've started 6:30. We've really tried to manage it to 90 minutes as best as possible. We know, again, everyone, there's plenty of Zoom fatigue, but we want to see if we could move it up earlier, move it later. Preference would be not to move it later, because for people like Bill and Father Jim and Stacy, we're pushing 11 p.m. now, and we always want to make it easy for some of our guest speakers from the other time zones to join us. All right. Well, of course, everyone's here. So as expected, Monday looks good to this group. It's always the people that are not on the call today that we need to find out what day. But thank you on that. I've heard when we started this effort, I knew that Tuesdays, Thursdays, parish council meetings, Wednesdays, choir practice, we just, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and feast days. So Monday's been pretty good. We'll probably continue to do Mondays and just make sure if we run into any particular feast days, we move around accordingly. Okay. Thank you very much on that. Next one is time. So want to see, are people able to, we used to always avoid 5 because we were all commuting home from work. But suddenly, or at least over the last couple of years, that hasn't quite been the case. So wanted to see if we're also, want to make sure that we're not completely interfering with people's dinners and family times. So, so we've got a few for 6:30, which is our current starting time. 6 o'clock, 5 p.m. We definitely got, looks like we got at least moving up a half hour is doable. 5:30 is not too popular, but okay, how many votes do we have? 21 of 24. Very good. I think we've got at least a statistical sample here of this group. Thank you. We will try to see, and maybe we experiment a little bit, trying to push it out a bit earlier, because I do, God bless Bill. Bill will be here any hour of the day or evening, and even Father Jim and Stacy have joined us for the vast majority of these town halls, but it might be a little bit easier again to get some of our other speakers. So we'll try to move it up, but I'm hearing at least 6 o'clock. It looks like here at least 6 o'clock is doable. Okay, so those are some of the quick questions. I put my email in the chat. Please feel free, as you start, think about it later tonight, as you think about it the next day or two, shoot me your thoughts. I'd certainly love to hear from all of you. I know as I look across this group, many of you have also presented what's happening at your parishes. So we'll work in the coming weeks to put together a schedule for 2022, and really looking forward to getting everyone back together. Hopefully at the end of January. Again, we got two very distinct specific topics. One around the technology or church and financial management software. And then, I think the survey is going to take a little more work as we get a survey done, but then the reporting out, it's going to be, I think, extremely valuable for our parishes and our metropolis. So I thank you all. Bill, Father Jim, Stacy, any other kind of closing comments before we go to His Eminence?
My only, I'll let the clergy go last, but I just a couple of points. None of this would have been possible, honestly, without Kristen and Steve behind the scenes making everything happen. I mean, truthfully, y'all don't even know how much work the two of them put in behind this and stuff like that. So, I think that's exemplary in so many respects. And then the last thing that I want to say is I have never been a part, and I'm not blowing smoke at him because he's too far away, but I have never been a part of any program at which the presiding hierarch has been in attendance and gets 100% attendance award. So I don't know what the award for Sunday school perfect attendance is in the metropolis of San Francisco, but y'all need to come up with one and give it to your metropolitan, because I'm honestly, Your Eminence, I've never seen anybody go through all of this like this. So God bless you.
There's a song about that. I'm gonna sing it to you when I see you in person.
All right, that's beautiful. Thank you all of you all for participating so regularly and engaging so fully and coming up with your A games and your great ideas. Y'all are an inspiration to the Archdiocese, and I just think that needs to be said. So God bless you all and Merry Christmas. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Bill. Father Jim, Stacy.
Well, there was actually a lot there, so you covered all the bases, but the department is here for you. Stacy and I are here for you. Whatever you might need or questions you might have, we kind of have an eagle's eye view of the Archdiocese. So if you have a question about what's working, what's going on, or you'd like to share something that's working, we would love to hear from you. So it's easy to reach us. Just go to the website. You can find our contact information. And just thank you all for your dedication to the ministry. And it is a ministry, and it's very fulfilling ministries.
Great. Okay, Stacy, anything?
I will just offer my thanks and say what a blessing it is to meet and work with people from all of the parishes all over the country. Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy. I will wish you all a very Merry Christmas, but leave it to His Eminence to properly send us off to this beautiful season.
Before we pray for the closing of our gathering today, my thanks to everyone who is making this possible. Steve Pappas, Kristen Bruskas, Bill Marianis, Father Jim Cordaris, Stacy Stathulis, and every one of you who came here tonight to spend the time. That means that you have your heart in the right place. And this is just a pause. It's not, okay, thank you, we did the work and that's it. We have work to do together going forward to 2022. So many thanks to every one of you, no matter who you are. I know you from the face, most of you. I have not met a lot of you in person, and I'm looking forward to have that. But for the time being, I am very thankful to God that I have people like you, to men and women, and do whatever it is to do in the particular parishes that you are, to make sure that the people of God are fed spiritually, especially this time of in our history as a nation. We have a great deal of challenges, and your presence and your work is very valuable. So thank you to all, and let us pray. Glory to you in the heights, O God, and on earth peace to all your people. This evening, as we prepare to celebrate the birth in the flesh of your only Son, your eternal radiant light, be pleased to surround us with his brilliance, since he is both our brother and friend, as well as the light that liberates us from the power of darkness. In his name we beseech you. Bless our churches and our people all over the world, that they may always light the lamps of hope and peace in our hearts and in the hearts of all the people everywhere. For you are holy, O God, and we give you glory, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, now and always, and unto the ages of ages. Amen. A blessed Christmas. Happy, beautiful, and healthy New Year. And many, many blessings from God to all of you and your families. God bless you.
Thank you, Your Eminence.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.